Thank you for joining us this evening. Please join me in our opening prayer. The energy of love is within us and is us. Whole and complete is the I am that we are. We awaken to the truth of our being. We will this be done within and without. And may we come to recognize that we receive all that we give. We know that we have forgiven ourselves when we forgive others of all grievances held within our minds. May we not be led into temptation by the voice of separation, but instead may we transcend all illusions, for ours is the power, love, and peace of Christ consciousness found within each of us, who is but the perfect extension of the one mind and heart that is shared by all, and is our birthright as the holy extension of love itself. Our affirmation of faith: we believe in one God, the author and energy of all life, whose love sustains the universe and all things found within it. And our 5 Christ principles. 1. There is only one energy in the universe, and that energy is love, at all times active in everyone, everywhere. 2. We are the divine energy of love, and that energy is found throughout the universe and in all things, whether seen or unseen. 3. We create our experiences by what we choose to think, feel, and believe, thereby establishing our responsibility for our own choices. 4. Through opening our heart center, we connect with the energy of love and bring out the Christ within us. 5. We express our desire to be of service when we live and demonstrate Christ consciousness in all our affairs.
Thank you, Miss Penny. And hello, everyone here, to those who are watching, those who will watch later in the week. Today I'm going to talk about something that we usually never bring up, but I'm going to start with the reason why I would like to discuss it. Over the last couple of weeks, I've heard several news articles on this particular topic about people leaving churches, like in droves. That the number of attendees to church services has plummeted in some areas by almost 70%. Why? Well, have you kind of noticed that people who call themselves Christians aren't acting very Christ-like? And really, what spurred this particular topic is someone, I will leave nameless, said in an interview that compassion is the root of all of society's problems. After I put my jaw back, I'm like, compassion is the root of our problem? And it's from statements like that as to why some people are just leaving churches. Even the Catholic Church came out and said, what? Compassion is not the cause of any problem. It's when we aren't compassionate that the problems arise. So over the last few weeks, as I've thought about what I wanted to discuss with it, I came to this. So here's the topic. God has no opposite. Period. Now, for those who are leaving the churches and you are ready for the truth, then please listen. Because most of us, if we were raised in the Christian tradition, we were taught that there were two powers in the universe. The goodness of God, or that of love, and then evil, that of Satan or the devil, whatever you want to call it. And that evil was just as powerful as good. But that would mean that God would have an opposite. So I'm going to ask a couple of questions, and I want everyone to think about it. If you're at home watching, or if you're watching later this week, just stop for a moment and answer the questions. What is the opposite of everything? Because we're told that God is everything, right? God is the all of everything. So what is the opposite of everything? You may be thinking, well, it's nothing. But if everything is all there is, then there can not be a nothingness at all. They cannot coexist. Cannot coexist. God cannot have an opposite. Period. Because if you take what's called the 5 O's of God, the beingness that is God, the 5 O's, you know them: omniscient, omnipotent, omnipresent, omnibeneficence, and one. If there's only one, let's start at the end. If there's only one, then there can be no opposite. Period. There can be no opposite to one. If God had an opposite, then he's not omnipresent. So are you getting what I'm trying to say? You either believe in God, but if you believe that God has an opposite, then you don't believe in God at all. And you may be saying, oh yes, I do. If you believe that God can have an opposite, then you do not believe in God. Then what do you believe in? That's the question. Because it isn't God. If you believe that God has an opposite, that there is an evil that is comparable to God, then you don't believe in God. Because you certainly don't believe in the beingness that is God. One, that he's omnibeneficent, that he's omnipresent, everywhere, at all times. Because where is there that can exist that God is absent? If he's everywhere, it's like nothingness and everything. They're contradictory statements. There's a contradiction there. And where there is a contradiction, there's BS. And I want to call it BS. We have been lied to. And lied to. And most of us bought it. And it's taken us years, some of us years, to get out of. Because it seems to be prevalent in the world that there's opposites. There's opposites in the world because we want opposites. We want duality. Do you know why we want duality? So that we can judge. That's why we want duality. We want dualism because we can judge. We can judge someone is guilty or they're bad so that we can be good. I don't know about you, if you've listened to some Christian pastors lately. Boy, they can condemn whole groups of people. Because they missed something. I'm like, when was the last time you read your Bible? Jesus himself said, "Do not judge, lest ye be judged. And by the judgment you give is the judgment that will be rendered back to you, will be measured back unto you to the exact measure that you give it." And then they completely miss, which just blows me away, where Jesus himself in Matthew says, God judges no man, but yet they're there on Sunday mornings telling you that God is going to judge you and damn you to hell. Where? Where is that? Because Jesus, who they profess as their Lord and Savior, says, God judges no one. 3 chapters later, in Matthew, he says, I judge no one. So God doesn't judge. The Christ, the Son of God, doesn't judge. Well, who is it that judges? He told us, it's us. We're the ones that judge. And he tells us we judge by the flesh. For the Spirit judges nothing. And why do we judge? Why do we judge? Some of us love to judge. Some of us, and we're taught to make righteous judgments, good judgments. We're even taught that there's bad judgments and good judgments. How about no judgment? That's what we were asked to do, not to make any judgments. Judgment is what creates opposites. If God doesn't judge, and neither does the Christ, then there can be no opposite. Because it's only in judgments that contradictions are made. It's only in judgments that there can be good and evil, right, wrong, up, down, right, left. But there are no opposites in truth. There is only the is or isness. There is no opposite to God. And to believe that God could have an opposite or an alternative is the greatest mind job that we have given ourselves. I once was told the greatest thing that the devil ever did was to get man to believe he didn't exist. I think the worst thing that we ever did was to get to believe that there was something opposite of God, of pure love. And then believed it. And believed it so intently that we created this place called hell, this inferno that has nothing to do with the Bible at all. At all. In the Hebrew, where the Greeks use the term Hades, English hell, it comes from the Hebrew word Sheol. Have any of you ever looked it up to know exactly what it was? Or did you just believe what other people told you hell was? Like Descartes and the Inferno. It was a story. And then from that story, religion was created, especially Protestantism was created around that story. And it was just a story with the 7 levels of hell that doesn't exist anywhere. But what did Sheol mean? It wasn't hell. It was a place where man, when he transitioned or died, he existed before the resurrection. But there was no torment. Never was it explained in the Hebrew as having torment. It was a slowing, almost an ignorance, is the way it's said, but not an inferno. To believe that God has an opposite, that heaven has an opposite called hell, is the biggest crock that there is. A loving God would throw his beloved children in this eternal place of torment forever? Really? That's not a very loving God. We wouldn't even do that. Now hear me. We, even in our justice system, if someone is caught stealing something, they go to court, they're tried, they're found guilty, they spend 5 or so years in prison, but they get out. We get they walk free because they've paid their debt. But do you recognize, if you believe in hell, there is no paying of the debt if you receive that? And guess what that makes us? You ready? Makes us better than God. That's what I want you to recognize. Remember, we're supposed to be created in God's image. When did we create God in our image? God is angry. He's jealous. He's a murderer. If you read the Old Testament, according to the Old Testament, he murdered quite a few. What a crock. That's not God. Never was. If you're going to call yourself a Christian, then let's follow the way. Jesus told us he was the truth, the life, and the way. He spoke the truth. He said to worship God in spirit. Not in a temple. Not in anything that was built by hands, but within, in spirit. And he said, I am the life, for he was the bread of life. Hence the communion. Which, what did he do first? He broke the bread. What did he do second? Poured wine. And what did he say it was? It represented the blood. But not the blood of the cross. Look up the word blood. The word blood means kindred, kinship. He was saying at the Last Supper, there were brothers. He closed the prayer. The last prayer, the Last Supper, the last prayer he said before they left and went to the Garden of Gethsemane. He said, Father, may they know that they are in me as I am in you, and that we are in you, that we are one. So if that's true, then where could you be that God isn't? And then even this is missed. In the Old Testament, one of the prophets said, no matter where I go, there you are. Whether in good times or bad, whether in heaven or Sheol or hell, there you are, for you are always with me. When you recognize that God has no opposite, life changes. Boy, does life change. Because now you recognize there can only be heaven. And no matter what is happening in your life, it's perfect. Now you may think it sucks, and you have that right. But if you'll stop and ask yourself, what is this serving? What purpose does this serve? What is this giving me? What is it gifting me? And if you will sit in the silence long enough, you will hear the answer. You will know that there's a gift there, even in what we call the hardships, the hard times. There's something there. Most of us have heard the old adage, what doesn't kill us makes us stronger. Well, if it didn't kill you, it's made you stronger. That's the gift. And which brings me to the last part of this. In duality, there are two systems of service. Service to self and service to others. Service to self is hell. It is the negative route. Because there is no compassion. When there is only service to self, compassion is dead. Now go back to what I started with when less than 2 weeks ago, a man was being interviewed and he said, compassion is the root and the problem of our society. Compassion. I don't have to judge, for I've been told that loss of compassion is service to self. If you do not have compassion for others, then there can only be service to self. And when there's only service to self, there's usually ruination that comes. But if you have service to others, then you recognize there's something very profound about it. Because there are no opposites. There is no service to self or service to others. There's the duality. It doesn't exist. That's how we have been taught, and we cannot seem to break free of dualism even when it comes to service. We still think that there's service to self, service to others. But there are no others. There's only the self. However, service to others is service to self. Because what I do to another, I'm doing but unto myself. Jesus said that. In fact, it says there will be those who will come to him and say, Lord, Lord, I did everything in your name. And he will say to them, I know you not. But I preached, I prophesied in your name. And he will say, but when I came and was hungry, you offered no food. When I was thirsty, you did not give me drink. When I was clothless, you did not give me a coat. And they will say, when did that happen? We never saw you. And he said, for as unto the least of these that you did but unto me. Again, whatever we do to another, we're doing to the self, ourself. That's why there is no duality even in service. Because it can only be done to the self. If you are in service only to self, you're closed off, and you will never truly be happy and receive all of the gifts the universe has for you. You can't, because you're like this. No, it's mine. No, I will not share it. But when we give to others, then we're meeting the law. There are 12 spiritual laws. There is one that is the overarching law, the one that guides all other laws, the law of love, the law of God himself. God is love. What does the law of love say? That which you give another, you gift but unto yourself. Meaning there is no duality, there is no other. There's only the self, the one. Going back to the 5 O's of God, there's only the one. And you are that one. You are the reflection of that one. We all are. So when we give to each other, we're giving to the one, to ourselves. And when we give, we're in service. And when we're in service to others, we will know heaven. And we're told that the windows of heaven will open. And we cannot even imagine all of the gifts that are piled and stored in the storehouse for us. When you recognize that God has no opposite, life changes. When you recognize duality does not exist, in other words, it is not true. It is a lie that we have been taught. Life changes. Life becomes free. It becomes an experience of love, hope, and joy, not one of sacrifice, suffering, and heartache and hardship. But it's up to us. We can continue to believe in the lie, or we can finally live the truth, live as the Christ, follow the way. And so I end this with this. If you are ready, truly ready to live the way of Christ, search. The answers are there. Someone shared with me this morning. I want to end with this now. Ignorance is a choice. Ignorance is a choice. But what is ignorance? It's just not knowing the truth. It's darkness. That's what darkness is ignorance. Ignorance is not knowing the truth. But not wanting to know the truth is stupidity. So if you've heard the truth, but you don't really want to accept it, that's just stupid. That's not being ignorant because you know the truth. Now you are responsible. You own it. So please, if you are taught that God has an opposite, run like hell. Run. Get the hell out. Because if you don't get the hell out, you're going to find that you're the hell in. And it will never change. Learn that God does not have an opposite and discover what power really is. And open your eyes and find those that believe in Jesus, the truth of the Christ. Not in some fictitious, made up BS to keep us controlled. Learn how much you are loved, not despised. And see how quickly your life changes. All right, let's take a moment. If you would, just put both feet on the floor. Close your eyes. And we're going to keep this one simple. We're going to keep this one to 1. We're going to take 3 deep breaths. And on the inhale, I want you to think, I am. And on the exhale, 1. On the inhale, I am. And feel it on the exhale, 1. Again, on the inhale, I am. And now on the exhale with gratitude, 1. And sit with the oneness for just a moment in stillness and quiet. As we come back into this space, this time, this place, this moment, I will leave you with this. If anyone speaks of 2, run, for there is only 1. Only 1. And we are it. Thank you, and until next week, take care, have a good one, and remember, you are loved.